the physicists would say time is what a clock measures, right? Sort of what we call objective time. So can you tell a little bit about how you see that gap, or isn't there a gap between subjective time and objective time? How we experience it and how we talk about it in physics?
I think operationally it is useful to make the distinction between objective time and subjective time. Subjective time is malleable. If you're interested in activity, it feels like time passes fast. If you're bored, it feels like time passes slow. But if you count the number of clock ticks, it's the same in both cases if it's the same amount of time. So it's operationally useful, but the more in-depth conceptual, metaphysical distinction between these two kinds of time, I don't think that is absolutely clear yet, unless we define objective time as what clocks measure.
Do you agree with that definition?
I think it's operationally useful, but of course it doesn't go deep enough into what we mean by time.
You still don't know what you're measuring.
and therefore, we still don't quite understand what the relationship is between objective time and subjective time. The ticking of clocks is a content of perception, and that is itself a mental thing. We just quantify that, and therefore we can attach some degree of objectivity to the number of ticks of the clock. But we are still talking about experience in both cases. We experience clocks ticking, we experience the counting of clock ticks, and we experience the subjective flow of time. So the relationship between the two is not too clear. Where my greatest interest is, however, is not in the relationship between subjective time and objective time. It's the relationship between the nature of the human mind and the nature of time.
Yeah.
Because I think the answer to the mystery of the human mind at least overlaps substantially, if it isn't the same, as the answer to the mystery of the nature of time. And there is where I think that the most promising developments are going to come.
Because to me, that's really intuition. My consciousness seems fully dependent on time, because I can only imagine being conscious or experience the world if there is a now in which stuff happens, if there is a past, a present, and a future. And it's like now, and I just cannot imagine being conscious without time. So to me, so curious what your thoughts are here, Carr, and also please discuss this, but do you agree there? I mean, do you think the two are intertwined and need each other? Or?
I have quite a strong view. I think that subjective time, mental time, is different from physical time. And in my model, one is T1 and the other is T2. It's a different dimension. And it's the conscious time which is the most fundamental. But when you perceive the physical world through your physical sensory systems, through your brain, through the filter of the brain, then you're perceiving what we call objective time. So it's rather like you're in a room and you're looking through a window, and in that window you see the physical world. And so it's all, in some sense, the primary time is your mental time in my perception, but the physical time is how that relates to the outside world. So that's the objective time. But the point is, most physicists don't even acknowledge the existence of subjective time. Psychologists do, but most physicists, well, they can say they're not interested in it because they think that all that matters is objective time. Objective time is the third person. You know, physics is concerned with the third person description of the world, and that's where the objective clocks are and things. But the first person's perspective, that is what relates to subjective time. And in the normal space-time of relativity theory, I said before, there is no passage of time, there is no consciousness, there is no mental time. It is an extra dimension in my way of looking at things. And I'm not quite sure whether Bernardo will agree with that, but I think that is fundamental. And I would say there is something missing fundamentally from physics until they acknowledge that there is this extra time. So, for example, you have people saying, what's the speed of time? what a stupid question. It's 1 second per 1 second. Well, to me, that's a stupid answer, because it's nothing to do with that. When we talk about the speed of time, we're talking about the relationship between mental time and physical time. How much mental experience you seem to have for a given amount of external objective time. And that varies tremendously. We had talks in the meeting. I mean, Mark Whitman spoke about this, how your subjective time can change. Well, your subjective flow of time, which means subjective time versus objective time, how can that can vary dramatically. So they are different, and it's nothing to do with 1 second per 1 second. It's to do with mental time versus physical time.